Good morning, everybody. My name is Welborn. I am president of the Chino Valley Chamber of Commerce. Today is our Chino Valley Leaders Webinar on the coronavirus. Our confirmed panelists for today we have from Congresswoman Norma Torres' office, Sol Guerra. We have Chino Police Chief Wes Simmons, and we have Heather Parsons-Nishioka from Chaffey College. So welcome, everybody. I think, Chief, are you there?
I am here.
All right. Well, why don't we get started with you? Can you give a brief update and introduction about what's going on with the Chino Police Department?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, when we started this back in March 19th was when the governor issued his stay-at-home order, and I know I came on and spoke with you guys a few times. You know, that first month it was a different world out there. It was you know, people were abiding by the order, kind of turned into a ghost town. We saw our calls for service drop in half from 300 a day to 150 a day. We saw our crime decrease as well. But come April, our good folks were continuing to abide by the order, but the criminals had stopped, and we're out there, and our men and women were holding them accountable if they were committing crimes. We did see the criminal element kind of change their tactics from going from breaking into homes, since people are now home, they couldn't do that, and to breaking into businesses because people had closed their businesses. Also, we saw domestic violence and fight type calls go up as people were getting antsy at home, as well as mental health calls. But I would say we're now back to normal when it comes to our calls for service when we compare this time this year to this time last year. And our men and women are out there again continuing to hold people accountable. The roadways are back to normal. I encourage everybody to abide by the rules of the road. Otherwise you could find yourself getting stopped. I think one of the things that we've seen in California that's made our job more difficult is some of the orders that have come out from the state of California, and specifically the zero bail policy from the Judicial Council, which made most crimes or eliminated the cost of bail for most crimes. And so in the past 30 days, we arrested 226 people for various crimes, felonies and misdemeanors. Out of that 226, the judges had released all but 15 of them. And we've seen them come back out to our community and continue to commit crime. Our district attorney and our sheriff have been adamant against this policy and have encouraged officers to get bail enhancements, and we've had some success with that. Though not all judges agree with that order, but we're still doing our job and we're still holding people accountable. And I would say that Chino and the Chino Valley is a very safe community, and that has not changed at all. Those are kind of the things I wanted to talk about. I want to thank the community just for their support. Seemed like every day we had people either dropping off personal protective equipment or food or treats to our people, because the men and women of the Chino Police Department didn't have the opportunity to shelter at home. They had to continue to go out there and keep our community safe, and of course that's what they love to do, and that didn't stop. So we appreciated all the support we got from everybody. And then we also had to move into some new technology, and one of those areas was online reporting. Been something we had been talking about for a while, and this was just a perfect opportunity for us to transition to online reporting, where we didn't have to put two people in contact with one another and potentially expose them. So that has worked well, and we're still working through some of those bugs. And the last thing I wanted to touch on is the 4th of July. Obviously, because of all the things that are going on, our 4th of July is going to look a little different this year. In Chino, we have a long tradition of selling safe and sane fireworks, and that's going to continue. But in the past, we typically saw a 4th of July on a weekend be kind of slow in Chino because people would go on vacation. That's not going to be the case this year because a lot of people had to cancel their vacation plans. So we expect the 4th of July to be pretty busy, and there's not a lot of other opportunities out there like organized fireworks shows. But I want to caution people, if they're thinking about buying illegal fireworks, that we will be enforcing those laws, and they're stiff penalties, up to $1,000 fine if you're caught with illegal fireworks. So I encourage people, buy the Safe and Sane from our fireworks stands. Enjoy yourself. Have a great 4th of July as we celebrate our country's independence, but stay away from illegal fireworks. That's what I wanted to share, Zeb, and of course I'm available for any questions if anybody had any questions for me.
Thank you, Chief. We do have a few questions. So Jim Gallagher is asking what procedures are in place to assure county safety norms are going to be kept in place? So let's say people going into stores and not wearing their masks, or going into crowded situations. What's kind of the protocol there?
So the county health officer has eliminated all restrictions outside of the state. So the state orders are what's in effect. When it comes to the wearing of masks, those are not mandatory. Those were always recommendations. The state never made that a mandatory recommendation. And most of the new recommendations are coming out are just that, as recommendations. Our stance has always been friendly reminders. I find it very difficult to cite or arrest somebody for violating a health order when I can't arrest or keep somebody in jail who's assaulting or victimizing people in our community. So those things just don't mesh. So our tack has always been friendly reminders and personal accountability. I wear my mask when I'm out in the public, not to protect myself, because a face covering doesn't protect yourself. It protects those who you're interacting with. So out of respect for the people that I'm interacting with, I wear the face covering. I wear the face covering in my place of business, and we encourage employees to do that. And I think for your members, Zeb, that's the power that they have. If they're running a business or they own a business, they can set their own standards and encourage people to abide by that. We've seen it in the grocery stores and different places, and now that we're seeing restaurants open back up, set those standards. It's your business, and you get to dictate that.
And has Chino specifically seen any issues with the $0 bail? Have you arrested somebody that's come out? You hear stories about that and then re-arrested them?
Yes, we have. And some of these people are violent people. We've seen it in domestic violence cases, and we've had a couple of stalking cases where people have victimized people. We've taken them to jail. They've been released by the judge, re-victimized the person. We have arrested again, taken them back. So we have seen that.
And does that create unique challenges for you guys? I mean, does that create more danger for you guys as a team? Is it?
Yeah, I wouldn't say necessarily more danger. It certainly makes things more unique. And we've noticed with these criminals, and they'll tell us when we arrest them, I don't care. I know I'm going to be released. So from that aspect, it's emboldened them and encouraged them to continue their negative behavior.
And for my own edification, is that when their penalties are being piled on, they're still being charged with these things. They're just out, right? So if they're recommitting crimes, they're being added, like it's kind of like adding on their punishment to what they're doing anyways. Is that accurate?
Absolutely. Eventually they will be held accountable, but at what point will they be held accountable? And we could have prevented, and that's my goal as a police department, is to prevent crime.
Yep.
And we could have prevented numerous crimes by holding those people accountable to begin with.
Well, perfect. Well, Chief, thank you so much for taking the time to come on and give us an update. Are you involved with the city at all? I know that you're a representative of the city sometimes in here. What is the
Yep.
what's the city currently doing can you give us a city perspective?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're getting ready for our budget workshop, which is going to take place on Thursday. That's where we're going to propose our budget to the city council for the next fiscal year, which is July 1st through June 30th of 2021. And obviously, because of this, we have seen some financial impacts, and we're not sure what the picture is going to be moving forward. The experts are saying that this is going to be a V, and it's going to rebound quickly. But we're going to have to wait and see. You know, fortunately for the city of Chino, the city has always been financially stable and has some good reserves. So we're trying to minimize any impact that this has on our residents. But there are impacts for our employees. As I think most of you know, the city did have to furlough some community service employees because their job was no longer viable. They did the after school programs, and there is no after school programs right now. Now the city's goal is to bring them back as soon as the state releases those restrictions. But there certainly are going to be impacts on us moving forward, and we're going to just have to wait and see what those look like.
Well, cool. Well, again, Chief, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. And I know that you had a meeting right before this and came on, so thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you for having me, Zeb.
Thank you, Chief. All right. Well, let me remind you guys, everybody that's out there watching, is that this is on Facebook Live. So feel free to go onto your Facebook page and share this with folks that you feel like should get some value from today. On our call later today, we'll have Congresswoman Norma Torres as representative Guerra. We also have Heather Parsons-Nishioka from Chaffey College. So she's going to be giving updates about what Chaffey College is going through. And I think that throughout the call, we're likely to have some other panelists joining us in the near future. I also know that Stephanie Wade from Congressman Gil Cisneros' office is on the call today, so he will also be providing an update, so that will come a little bit later. And with that, so yeah, if you do have this, feel free to share it with your friends on Facebook. Let people know that we're having our Chino Valley Leaders Webinar today. So with that, I'm going to pass it off to Heather. Heather is a nominee for our board of directors of the Chino Valley Chamber of Commerce, and she's also a representative of Chaffey College. So she is here today to provide an update about how Chaffey College is handling the coronavirus and what their plans are moving forward. Heather?
Good morning, Zeb. If you'd please enable my ability to share the screen, that would be fantastic. I've got a brief PowerPoint deck to share with the community. On behalf of,
Sorry, I think you can. I think if you scroll over your face, you just hit share screen down there at the bottom. Does it show up for you?
No, that's okay. We can go without it. It's no problem. Good morning, everyone in the Chino Valley. I hope you enjoyed your Memorial Day weekend, and thank you so much for the opportunity to provide an update at what Chaffey College is doing in response to the coronavirus. For those of you that don't know much about the California Community College system, Chaffey College is one of 115 community colleges in the state of California. About 2.1 million students attend community college, and approximately 21,000 students attend each of our three campuses, our main campus in Rancho Cucamonga, our campus in Fontana, and of course, our campus in Chino, California. One of the things that I always like to point out when I talk about the importance of community college, in addition to how affordable it is its impact in the economic region. We support about $485 million in the Inland Empire and the region, and we support approximately 6,300 jobs in the Inland Empire. One of the things I always like to tell folks looking at the community college or students that are considering enrolling is that over your working lifetime with an associate's degree, you'll earn approximately $378,000 more over your lifetime, your working lifetime. And for those of you that go on to earn a 4-year degree, you'll earn approximately $1 million more within your working lifetime. So certainly those are some staggering numbers and ones to keep in mind as you're looking at your options moving forward. One of the things also that Chaffey College does well is provide affordable options. At Chaffey, it's $46 per unit, and you can see on my slide compared to the CSU and UC systems that we are a much more affordable option. I think that Jim is asking me a question about enrollment, and our enrollment is tracking to be on par, Jim, with where we were at last term, and I'll give you some data about that as well. For those of you that aren't incredibly familiar with the Chaffey College District, we serve 7 different cities. And you can see on the map, we have 3 locations in the city of Chino, with the largest being our main campus within College Park. Approximately 1,700 students come from the Chino Valley. About 1,200 of them are from the city of Chino, and about 500 from Chino Hills. There are a variety of different things that Chaffey College offers in terms of educational opportunities. Of course, we offer the opportunity to come and get your associate's degree. We also offer the option to work with you to get that associate's degree, which is a 2-year degree, and transfer to a 4-year program at a public or a private university like a CSU, UC, or perhaps a 4-year private like APU, University of Laverne, one of the Claremont schools. And we also offer career and technical education programs. We have something called the Intech Center in Fontana, which is a partnership with California Steel. We teach our Cisco program out of the city of Chino, and we also have a new HVAC program out of the city of Chino. One of the reasons it's incredibly important that we offer career and technical education training is because often in these industries, employers are telling us that there are not enough qualified employees to hire. And so we have students coming in to train in these industries, and sometimes their starting salary is $40 an hour, which is not too shabby considering coming straight out of a degree program. One of the other things that we like to do is track industry needs. Our president and superintendent, Dr. Henry Shannon, continues to look to have his pulse on the needs of industry. One of the things we've introduced in the last year is a new cybersecurity program. And this is particularly important because it's one of the first to be offered in the region. And graduates coming out of that program are earning about $96,000 per year. So particularly to the COVID-19 situation, we have seamlessly transferred all courses online as of spring 2020. The faculty, the staff, the students did a phenomenal job of making sure things went seamlessly. Our IT folks got Canvas up and running, and we've had minimal interruptions to class. In the summer of 2020, we are going to be offering online courses only. Our summer term starts June 1st, and we'll be offering both 6 and 8 week courses. For the fall of 2020, the majority of our courses are also going to be offered online. There will be a few face-to-face offerings for labs and activity classes potentially, but we are telling students that the majority of our classes will be offered online. One of the things that came to us immediately in terms of need for our students was technology. We, of course, can't take 21,000 students and expect them to go online overnight without providing them with the technology that they need. And so Dr. Shannon and our board ordered several thousand Chromebooks, and students were able to go online and reserve one of those Chromebooks and come to one of several events where our administrators and faculty took full safety precautions. We had masks and gloves. We were able to distribute these Chromebooks to students. And for students that are continuing their education, they're able to keep those Chromebooks with them. So if you were in the spring and you're moving into the summer or fall, you're able to keep that Chromebook so that there's not any disruption to your access to technology. As many of you know, also the federal government has authorized under the CARES Act emergency funding that half of which we are required to distribute to our students. Approximately 12,000 students at Chaffey College across all campuses will be receiving money under the Federal CARES Act, about $500 grants per student. One of the other things that we've been doing is having our college outreach program work with all the high schools. We know that it can be scary and highly exciting to transfer from high school into a college program. So our outreach specialists are working carefully with all of our high schools, the high school counselors, and our incoming students to make sure that that transition is seamless. Deb, next slide, please. So one of the other things that we've done in response to the COVID-19 virus is create a new homepage on our website. We will be unveiling an entire brand new website later this summer, but for now, our homepage has been adapted to help students deal with accessing services during this crisis. We've added something called Queue Lists, and that gives students the ability to set an appointment with their telephone number, and someone from our team will call them back. This way, students are able to speak with admissions and records counselors, financial aid counselors, and handle just about any kind of business they would need to handle virtually as they would on campus face-to-face. We are incredibly cognizant of the fact that we need to continue offering students opportunities to interact with each other and have what I would call the normal college experience. So we have launched some virtual opportunities, including things like our student invitational at our Wignall Museum. We have some online tutorial videos that are available online for students, and that's going to help them with everything from scheduling online counseling sessions, accessing registration information, being able to talk to people in our student success centers. Also, our library has done quite a bit to increase services online. We also now have a 24/7 option for students to chat with a librarian, and they can also set an instructional appointment via Zoom, so anything that they need help with, they're able to get. And of course, we are very much aware of the students' ever demanding need for health and mental health services. So they're able to schedule virtual appointments through telehealth. And we're making sure that the students are given all of this information on a regular basis so they know where to go for help. Zeb, next slide, thank you. One of the things that we are passionate about at Chaffey College is serving our housing and food insecure students. We participate in something called the Real College Survey, and data from the last round of the survey specific to Chaffey College let us know that 3 of 5 of our students have experienced either housing or food insecurities in the past 12 months or both, and about 14% of them reported homeless. And of course, with the COVID-19 crisis, we expect these numbers to increase dramatically. And so we've ramped up our efforts in terms of trying to provide seamless service to the students. Our Panther Pantry has switched to an online model. We've been able to feed about 600 students in the last 4 weeks at each of the 3 campuses. Again, all safety precautions are taking place. We have masks, we have gloves, they simply drive through and we hand them the bag. They also are able to schedule virtual appointments with the Panther Care team. And these are things where they can get housing referrals for short-term housing, referrals for mental health services, and also application access to our mini grant program, which helps students with things like rent, utilities, emergency car repairs, and things like that. So one of the things we're most proud of, as Dr. Shannon says, is Panthers have grit. We are Panther strong even during this COVID-19 crisis. We've awarded a little bit over 6,400 awards for the 2019-2020 academic year. And the outstanding thing about this is that this is about 608 awards more than last year. About 3,100 of these are unduplicated awards, and really what that is just a fancy way of saying some students receive multiple certificates, multiple degrees. Last year, many of you might remember, we had a student that graduated from Los Osos High School and Chaffey College in one evening under our dual enrollment program with 4 AAs that night. And so we've had an all-time record in terms of conferring awards, and we're incredibly proud of that in our students. Specific to Chino Valley, about 495 of them came from our area, and 10 had perfect 4.0 GPAs, and 35 graduated with honors. So that's something we should all be incredibly proud of in the Chino Valley. Last week, we were able to celebrate students with something called the Drive-Through Grad Fest. Our team at Chaffey College wanted students to feel celebrated, and so across each campus, students were able to drive on and be met by faculty and staff passing out grad bags. They had their cap, their tassel, all kinds of fun things, balloons, and of course, our governing board members and Dr. Shannon were on hand to celebrate the grads. And one of the things that was incredibly exciting was the LA Times picked up the story last week. About 600 graduates participated in Rancho, and about 170 at each of Fontana and Chino campuses. Next slide, please, Seb.
I'm trying. There you go.
So one of the other things, lastly, we've been trying to do is provide some fun virtual celebrations for our students. Of course, we know as educators and as human beings, we want to be rewarded and feel good about the hard work we put in when we're working towards a goal. So last week, we celebrated with 3 different virtual cap decorating celebrations. So you can see some of the screenshots from that here. And that was incredibly fun for the students. We have some alumni networking events. In fact, we're doing one this afternoon with a couple hundred new graduates learning about how to become entrepreneurs and write business plans. We've also got shout out videos that have been on all of our social media channels congratulating our new graduates. And we're also going to be launching something called Panther Connections, where we're providing marketing opportunities to highlight alumni small-owned businesses, which we're very excited about. And I think our last slides were just a couple of pictures of our dean, Teresa Hull, who had been on campus for Chino, and then we also had our governing board president, Gloria Negrete McLeod. But I thank you for the opportunity to provide the update at Chaffey College. I thank you all for your support. I know that our students, faculty, and staff are incredibly grateful, and welcome any questions that you might have.
Okay, cool. So you answered the question. So enrollment is looking pretty much the same?
Yes, we're tracking to be on par with last year, which is great news. It means students are finding that the online transition has gone smoothly and they're not being deterred, which is what we want. We want to keep them in school.
Cool. And what's kind of the biggest challenge that the college is facing currently? You know, like what are you guys doing internally that's creating the biggest challenge for you guys as a result of the coronavirus?
I think just being able to keep up with the ever-changing environment, making sure that we're keeping up with the county requirements, making sure that we're able to keep a minimal amount of staff on campus to keep things running, making sure that we transition our workspaces to be able to be 6 feet apart, to provide staff with masks, gloves, things like that. And of course, making sure that the students have technology. You know, I think a lot of us take for granted that everyone has a laptop and online access, and that's just not the case. So trying to make sure that we get enough Chromebooks and we come up with enough hotspots that all students can get online is a huge priority for us.
Okay, sounds great. And then what does the future of college look like? Because I imagine that it's going to change. Have there been discussions about that? Do you have any insight into what college life will look like post-COVID-19?
I don't think there's any doubt that college will look a little different, like all of life post-COVID-19, but we are preparing to move forward and offer everything on campus as we would have, taking all safety precautions. We're going to be moving forward with our Measure P plans. In fact, the Chino campus will be getting its first instructional building. It's the very first building being rolled out by the Measure P bond program. I think that a lot of students will probably continue to take distance learning opportunities. We, I believe, are the 6th largest distance learning program in the community college system, and we've continued to grow that program. So I think a lot of resources and attention will be placed on distance learning opportunities.
Okay. Well, Heather, thank you so much for giving us an update about Chaffey College.
You're welcome.
And yeah, thank you. And congratulations on being nominated for the Chino Valley Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors.
Thank you, Deb.
Next up, we have from Congresswoman Norma Torres' office, we have Sol Guerra. Sol, are you there?
Hey Zeb, how are you
Hi,
doing?
Sol. Doing great. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me. So mine will be a little bit lengthier than the times past. I was not able to hop on last week, but I did want to give an update on the passed bill from the House, the HEROES Act, and all of the wonderful things that the Congresswoman was able to push for within this very lengthy bill, starting with our healthcare workers' protections. This is something that has always been in the front of her mind, just because coming from public safety with LAPD in her past career, ensuring that the frontline workers receive some type of hazard pay of up to $10,000 for all frontline workers. And so I wanted to thank the chief and to all of the Chino PD for being there in the front lines for it. Another thing that would strike a big win for our locals is the funding for with localities. The Congresswoman was able to support up to $388 million directly into her district, and Chino would be receiving over $40 million in federal funding to help push any type of local needs. Currently, there is no regulations for these fundings. We're looking into seeing what restrictions would apply for the city, but that would be another great support. We saw, I believe, was it last week with the City of Chino City Council meeting, that they supported the first set of funds through CBDG dollars to help with commercial rental assistance and utilities assistance for small businesses within the city. So we hope that this additional bill, should it pass and move forward, that it would again trickle down directly into the community. Going into the economic stimulus payments, there is talks, and it was passed for another wave of stimulus payment support of $1,200 per family and a cap of $6,000 per household. So we hope that that will go directly into the constituents' pockets to support whatever ends or loose ends that they need financially. Some labor and unemployment, as we've seen skyrocketed unemployment rates like never before. This bill would extend the $600 federal pandemic unemployment payment for another 13 weeks. I know it certainly has been helpful. We've been getting many calls from local constituents appreciating that type of funding. So we hope that it will pass. Not too much when it comes to the PPP. There is no additional dollars. However, we are requiring that there are some more strengthened measures on those programs with PPP and EIDL to ensure that that money is certainly being targeted to small businesses. We are requiring the SBA report the data as to who gets the loans, again, to make sure that it goes to the appropriate businesses that it was intended for. I do want to bring up that their deadlines for the SBA, PPP, and EIDL has been pushed back from the June 30th mark to December 31st. So it allows businesses to have additional time to understand how and where to spend those grant dollars or those programs funds specifically to more of what they're in need. Housing, a lot of housing issues is on our concern. The Congresswoman was in the state when the housing crisis, hey Stephanie, the housing crisis back in the 2008 recession, and so she did push the Keep Your Home California, when she was in the state. So of course, without a doubt, we are pushing for housing supportive measures in the federal government. It's $100 billion in emergency rental assistance. This time around, there will be some measures for homeowner assistance and for landlord assistance. We understand that, you know, if the renters can't pay on their front, it leaves some weight and burden onto the owners for that. So there are some financial measures for them and securities. As mentioned, the Congresswoman's great concern was for the prisons. I think you heard from her last time she was on the webinar, and so we're proud to say that we've introduced, or she has supported over $300 billion to prisons to support any type of testing, COVID, you know, PPE, and other resources that are in need. We see that the death rate is going higher. Another inmate did pass away over the weekend at the Chino prison. You know, they are in need of additional tests to ensure that, you know, they can identify who has tested positive and who hasn't, to ensure that, you know, safety measures are being held there. Thank you to Chaffey College. The Congresswoman was able to jump on a roundtable with our local higher ed leaders. And so she did hear from Dr. Shannon directly, and proud to say that there will be $100.15 billion for educational needs to the states and schools within the districts. Another supportive measure for higher ed, this would provide a $10,000 private and or public loan relief to students until September 2021. For our healthcare industry, this bill would support $100 billion to the federal fund for our healthcare providers. For food insecurities, this bill would support the increase of SNAP benefits and also tying to our dairy industries. As mentioned, we've been in close contact with our remaining dairy businesses. I grew up in Chino, so there was far more back then than there are now. So the remaining that are there, we want to ensure that they have every bit of resources as possible to continue and thrive. This bill would also help connect the two between food banks and the dairies to ensure that that we prevent dumping of the milk and other financial support. Last but not least, I know this is heavy on my mother's mind last time around, was the SALT deduction. So this bill would suspend the cap on the state and local tax or the SALT deductions for 2 years. So that is it in terms of the HEROES Act. It's quite lengthy. We will see. The Congresswoman is currently, she flew out yesterday, and it was a packed plane when she flew to Congress, or when she flew to Washington, D.C., excuse me, to get on a rules committee today to move this bill forward. And so safety and is always on the front of our minds with her anytime she travels. But she is in Washington, D.C. right now to do the hard work that's needed. Some other additional local events that I've been talking about is that our art competition, it will be launching today. So please stay tuned for her Facebook post. Participate, go on there, like your favorite art piece. The entry with the most likes, which is our People's Choice, will be deemed the winner, and their artwork will be hung in the Washington, D.C. Capitol for a whole year. It is still scheduled to provide a free trip to Washington, D.C. for our winners. There has been some talks that at least the ceremony be pushed back until fall, until things get cleared up a little bit more so. But yes, anyone can vote starting today on to Friday by 5 p.m. And additionally, we'll be having our virtual U.S. Academy ceremony to recognize those who will be moving forward as the incoming class for 2024 are cadets. We do have a few Chino young adults that will be moving forward specifically into the Air Force. So we'd like to recognize them, and then some additional information for the next wave of applications for the class of 2025. I'll be sharing the what to do's, how to prepare. If for any young adult who or high school student who would like to participate and learn more about the program, that would be scheduled on June 5th, which is Friday at 4 p.m. And once we get a link and the RSVP's portal open, I'll be sure to share it with you all. But that is it on my end. Apologies for the lengthy update, but I wanted to make sure everyone heard all the great news.
Yes, thank you, Sol. We do have a couple of questions for you. So let's start with this. You kind of mentioned something about there is funding available for rent relief. Is this for commercial lease, small business lease payments? How do businesses apply for it?
Absolutely. So there will be some commercial rent relief. Zeb, I know, thank you so much for connecting me to that small business owner. And her story certainly translated quite a ways out in Washington, D.C. We certainly shared her struggles trying to keep her doors open during these times. So there will be some commercial rent relief. However, I don't have the details as to how much on hand. Maybe Stephanie, I don't know. I know you're on, but maybe you may have some additional information on that. But more than anything, it has to be, we have to pass the bill forward first. It has to be signed by the president in order for any of these fundings to trickle down. The city of Chino did vote on commercial rental relief last Tuesday. I would encourage all small businesses to reach out to City Hall and ask for support and how to apply for those dollars. I know that it is up to $10,000 per small business. It's a micro grant. You know, I believe a few of the requirements was 5 employees and under, and you know, and that's pretty much all that I could recall from a week ago. But definitely reach out to City Hall to inquire for more information. And again, it's for rental assistance, commercially, and any utilities assistance.
Perfect. And then I think we're also going to have a representative from the city of Chino on a little bit later to talk about that also.
Oh, perfect.
We have the PPP dollars where the question comes is, were those extended to December? So it's mentioned that they were supposed to wait 8 weeks of receiving the PPP funds. They had to use those. Do they now have until December to use those funds? Is that what she was understanding?
Yes. So a lot of people were, you know, struggling to figure out how to, now that they were approved with, you know, the funding, especially with the PPP, many businesses that we saw were getting up $60,000, $80,000. And so for them, you know, understanding, they felt like they were rushed to spend. But just within the recent, I think last week, they pushed back from the June 31st mark or June 30th mark to December 31st to allow businesses to spend those fundings a little bit more wisely. I know it's ever changing. We're hearing it. We feel the frustration of the back and forth and policies that we hope to clear out a lot of that within the HEROES Act in the sense of strengthening SBA's regulations and policy guidelines. So that's our goal. So I hear you guys when you call in and are frustrated with the ever-changing policy. And so whatever way we can support and help you, by all means, feel free to contact myself for Chino residents at Congresswoman Torres' office. And of course, you have Stephanie for Chino Hills with Rep Cisneros.
And then one last question is the HEROES Act. So what is the status on that HEROES Act? Is it stuck in Senate? Is it in House committees?
No, it passed on May 15th, so it is in the hands of the Senate. Right now, I'm waiting to hear back on an update from our DC colleagues to see how things are moving along with it. And hopefully, Stephanie, if you have any other feedback, you can feel free to share. But that's my understanding. So we will see. We hope that that there's a little bit more pressure going on, because certainly that's the number one request from our city managers is that our locals need to see some direct funds. They have yet to see a dollar going to the city budget, at least on the state side. So however we could help. The sales tax seems to be the biggest hit on the west end of San Bernardino County, including Chino, in terms of budget revenues. So we're keeping our fingers crossed that this bill will move forward and help many of our communities at hand.
Okay, well, Sol, thank you very much for coming on and giving that update. Thank the Congresswoman as well.
Of course. Thank you, Zeb.
Bye, Sol. All right, our next panelist for today is Stephanie Wade from Gil Cisneros' office. Stephanie.
Hello, Zeb. Thanks
Hello.
very much for having me on this morning. Following Sol, my update will be much shorter. I'll start by saying that the congressman on Thursday morning had a Chino Hills town hall, and we really appreciate Zeb Welborn for representing the chamber, as well as Jim Gallagher also representing the chamber, and basically the entire city council except Mayor Bennett had a previous obligation with the American Builders Association. So, you know, it was a really good call, and I think the thing that the congressman heard a lot about is essentially what Sol was ending on there. And, you know, a lot of people are concerned about the HEROES Act. The congressman had some input on it, you know, which is difficult. These are enormous omnibus bills that are essentially negotiated at the leadership level. And we thought there was, you know, there were some things even the congressman said, you know, if I had had the opportunity, I wouldn't have put that in this bill. But there are things that the congressman did fight for, particularly, you know, and I think the three priorities that make this a really strong bill for the congressman are, you know, continuing the SBA funds and moving SBA funding forward. So those payroll protection plan loans are refunded. The EIDL or the loans are also funded, the operating funds. And then the second thing would be more money for both PPE and for testing, as well as for hospitals and first responders in general. And then that third area is just really trying to make sure that there are more block grants available for cities and municipalities, and really trying to make sure, you know, this is the way that the congressman argued very, very hard, because he heard it so loud and clear from municipalities. You know, the first round of stimulus was really giving money only to counties or cities of over 500,000 people. And that really left cities like Chino Hills and really our entire district, you know, the 39th district that the congressman covers, there's not a single city that would have qualified for those funds. And so they had to rely on the county. And we know that's sort of really difficult for any bureaucracy, especially in a fiscally austere environment like we're moving into, to pass money that it's getting on to another agency. And so what we've done is fighting very hard, and the congressman had, you know, a good role to play in this, in making sure that money is available through community block development grants, and that CDB funding, CDGB funding is now really available at whatever current levels the city had. And we think that's a quite fair way for these monies to really get to local communities. It makes it not political. And, you know, so overall, we think the bill has enormous good and enormous value. And, you know, we really are hoping that people will make their voices heard. And to that end, I already put my contact information in the chat, but I'll do it again, just if there are people that didn't see it before. And I encourage people, if they have business with our office, if they're having a problem with a federal agency, you know, I'm available. The entire office staff is available to you. But I also encourage people, if they have opinions about the loan, to contact. I'm sorry, about the HEROES Act. Contact us about that as well. But I would also suggest, it is really riding in the Senate. So, you can contact Kamala Harris. You can contact Senator Feinstein, who we know are supportive of the act. But it does help when you give them specific examples, just like Sol was saying. When we hear from specific constituents that are looking for specific things, those things really carry weight and help in committee hearings and in really influencing people to sign on to letters. And so that's important. And the final thing I would say is, whatever your opinions are, make them known as well through national organizations that you're involved with, because there's going to need to be a fix. And we really think the HEROES Act is the best way to move forward, but the Senate's going to have its own bill, some of which will be worked out in reconciliation. And we just really want to see that this be the best legislation we can possibly get. It's hard to put these things together so quickly. I hear from the legislative staff frequently, and I think we're all operating at 1,000,000 miles an hour. But these things are important. They need to happen, and the public is a part of that. And Zeb, the chamber, is a part of that too. So please share your thoughts and concerns with us, but also with other office holders.
Perfect. Thank you, Stephanie. We have a question from Jim. He said that there was kind of a proposal to dedicate $2,000 to every citizen, regardless of social class or income. Do you know anything about that?
I know what I read in the paper, Zeb. I've heard that a number of people have gotten behind the same sort of, inching towards a universal income idea. The congressman has not voiced an opinion on it. He tends to be fairly fiscally conservative, but I will say, in this climate, he understands and hears from a lot of people who are really hurting. So I can get back to us on where we're at on that, but we don't have an official position. I'll put it out on the Slack channel to the legislative team, and I can let you know next week.
Okay. All right, Stephanie, perfect. Thank you so much. And thank you to the congressman. Thank you from us as well.
Thank you, Zeb.
And so we had some other panelists that we're going to try to bring on here. I'm not quite sure if it's going to work as intended, but we're going to try it. So we have from Chino Valley Fire, we have Danielle Barnes. Danielle, we're going to test this. Danielle, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we
Can you hear
can.
me?
Yes, we
Okay.
can.
Good morning, Zeb and everyone online. I'm, as Zeb introduced, I'm Danielle with Chino Valley Fire District. So just a brief update. I know several weeks back, Chief Simmons had kind of mentioned where our call volume sat because the question was asked. So we have seen that our call volume over the last couple weeks has returned to normal for this time of year compared to obviously numbers of last year. We do appreciate the community and how they did respond to COVID-19 and not necessarily abusing the 911 system. They did take that very seriously. So we did over several weeks see a decrease in our call volume and as well as just the community members listening to the guidance of our personnel when we are on scene. So we are very appreciative of that. We are currently working on a plan to reopen. It could be as early as next week. We don't have a definitive date as of yet, but a lot of the items that we are looking for in our reopening plan is to adjust our hours initially. So typically our administration is open Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. So we may be altering those hours through the initial reopening phase just to allow staff time to sanitize our public areas. We'll also have some signage out for the community and public to let them know what standard we're looking for as far as when you enter our facility. So we will be requiring masks of anyone that will be coming in or face coverings for anyone coming into our facility, as well as we will continue to still wear them when dealing with the public. And that's pretty much up for the reopening. We've been consistently handling construction inspections. We have received some complaints just from community members in regards to businesses that are potentially or give the appearance that they're blocking their means of egress or they're exiting. So if you do come across that, or if a business has questions in regards to how maybe they can alter the path or ingress of individuals into their community, into their business as they begin to reopen, we're welcome to come out and talk with them and give them ideas. So ideally, we don't want anyone to be violating the fire code as they reopen. So my contact information was in the chat, and I will certainly put that out there again if any businesses have questions that they'd like to ask us, or if anyone has seen any complaints that they want to bring forward to us, you can do that certainly anonymously by submitting a complaint to us as well. And then lastly, I just want to thank the community for their continued support. We've, just like Chief Simmons mentioned, we have seen certainly an outpouring of support to our firefighter paramedics, and it is greatly appreciated.
Awesome. Thank you, Danielle. Do you know if the fire district is experiencing any shortfalls in revenues or any challenges based on this?
At this point, no, we're not. We are actually slated for our budget workshop, which is open to the public. It will be held virtually. That information is on our website. Our budget workshop is this Wednesday, the 27th at 4 p.m. I know that we did make some adjustments, just working with the management team over the last couple meetings to get a budget that we feel that our board will approve. But at this point, no, we are not.
Okay. Danielle, thank you for coming on last minute to kind of give us an update. I do appreciate it. And then we also have one more panelist, Vivian Castro from the city of Chino. Vivian, are you there? We'll test it, see if it works. There we go. Hi, Vivian. Hey, Vivian, it's cutting in and out on us. Yeah, it's like muting and unmuting really fast. There we go.
Is that better? Can you hear me?
Yes, much better.
Okay, let's give that a shot then. So my apologies, but anyway, thank you, Sol and Stephanie, for that update, and Danielle. So just a quick update on things happening in Chino right now. As Sol was talking about, the City Council did approve on the 19th an amendment to our fiscal year 2019-20 CDBG funds budget. So what we amended was to include $300,000 in CARES Act funding for 2 programs. A portion of that, $45,000, is going to assist with our senior meals. As you know, that's been a big program that every Wednesday, city staff is going out and actually delivering meals to seniors. The remainder of that funding, the $285,471, is allocated now for the Economic Development Microenterprise Business Grant Program that Sol mentioned. So that portion of the CARES Act funding is going to be administered by the city's Economic Development Department. So now that the CDBG budget has been amended, it goes to HUD, and then HUD will review and approve. So as soon as we receive approval from HUD, we do intend to make the website, the page on our city website, live with that application. So as soon as that's available, please, we'll ask the chamber to help us get the word out, and we'll send it out to our distribution list as well and post it on our website and other social media. So in terms of what the grant does, is it provides from $1,000 up to $10,000 to businesses on a first come, first served basis. So, do try to get your applications in as soon as possible. The funds can be used for lease rent payments. So, unfortunately, they are not available to help a business pay their mortgage payment, but this is specifically for lease or rent payments. And it's $1,000 to $10,000, but the maximum is going to be equal to 3 months worth of lease or rent payments for that business. Other eligibility requirements are that the business is located obviously in the city of Chino, although city of Chino Hills has a similar program, and I'm sure they'll provide additional information about that shortly as well. the business has to have a business license, and as Sol mentioned, it's a micro enterprise with 5 employees or less, including the business owner. You have to be able to verify that you have experienced a loss of income due to COVID-19. And there are some requirements as to it has to be a low to moderate income area. So the business owner must have a household income at or below 80% of the area median income. And we'll have all that information on the website. Or the employees have to meet the income qualifications of being low and moderate income. So anyway, we have a lot of it. We'll have all of that information online for you. You can use it to repair or you can't use it for repair and maintenance costs or past due property taxes. Certain types of businesses, such as adult entertainment, are excluded. But with that said, there's still a lot of leeway and for businesses, and primarily the idea is this will trickle down by applying it to lease and rent payments. We think that'll help the property owners as well that are seeing being impacted. So anyway, that's it. We're trying to keep the application as simple as possible. We do expect to hear back from HUD early June, so I would say start being on the lookout by June 1st and shortly thereafter. And get ready. The amount of information that's going to be required is fairly minimal. I mean, social security number, your employer identification number, your DUNS number, and business bank account information, and just kind of some verification of the number of employees you have. So we're really going to try to keep that as simple as possible. Additionally, just wanted to provide an update that the City Council is going to be having a budget workshop on the 28th at 4 p.m. And a lot of that is a significant departure, obviously, from prior budgets because of COVID-19. So I think anybody who's interested in tracking budgets will be interested to look at what's going on, what some of the assumptions are in terms of the city's revenue streams and how that's going to be impacted next year, because we really haven't, as most local governments, we really don't have that information yet. Usually there's a quarter kind of a delay between change in those revenues before we get the figures reported to us. So we did have to make some assumptions, and so we're assuming that that property taxes are going to be lower, property tax revenues are going to be lower next year, and sales tax revenues are going to be lower. Some of the other revenues, obviously, from programs that the city can no longer hold. So those are some of the things that are impacting on the revenue side. On the expenditure side, we're also probably going to be looking at some changes in operations, given the inability, again, to hold a lot of those recreation and community programs. So I think that's going to be throughout the state. We'll see that as well. And then finally, just wanted to let everybody know 2 pieces of information. The city's summer school programs are going to be enrolling, so that information is on the city website. I know that we've had quite a few parents eager to find someplace for their children in summer, and my own kids have been in the city's summer program, and they are implementing, obviously, all the they test the kids' temperatures and social distancing, and so I think it's a good option for people out there looking for child care and activities during the summer. And finally, we do have a vacancy on our Community Services Commission. The information's on our website and social media, and if you want to play a role in these important programs, we ask you to submit an application. And that's it. That's all I've got for now.
Perfect. Thank you, Vivian. I know we're going to have some questions for you, so hopefully you'll be able to join us next week. I want to thank everybody for coming. We're a little bit over time today, so I want to make sure to end as close to time as we can. So thank you to our panelists that are participating today. I also want to thank SoCal Gas because they ended up sponsoring our Chino Valley Leaders webinar call today. So I want to thank them for doing that as well. So thank you. And thank you to our Chairman Circle sponsors for your support through this as well. I want to thank everybody, thank our panelists, thanks all of you that attended. If you have any questions, you have anything, any panelists you want to see on for next week, please shoot me an email and I will make sure I do the best I can to get them on. Thank you and have a great week.